This is the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com. Let's tip it off.
Welcome, Finger Lakes basketball fans, to another edition of the Upstate Hoops Podcast. It is Thursday, December 27th, 2012, and this is episode 8 of Season 2. I'm Jim Sinacropi, and despite the heavy snow and a lot of shoveling, I'm joined up here tonight in the FingerLakes1.com studio in downtown Seneca Falls with my co-host, Matt Verkey.
Hey, Jim, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. I see you're sporting a brand new Syracuse t-shirt.
Yeah, this was a gift to myself. I picked it up out of the Under Armour.
No, and a Yankee hat because of Pinstripe Bowls this week.
That's right.
So perfect. I also am wearing a new Christmas shirt.
Nice.
I got about 5 different button-downs. And
that's pretty much your work attire on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, always the button-down, And we're coming at you tonight at a special time. Normally we're on at 9 o'clock, but because of the holiday week and conflicting schedules, we're here at 4 o'clock. And we got a great show tonight. Ben Cratsley, the senior guard of the Honeoye Bulldogs and the newest member of the 1,000 Point Club, is holding on the line, and we'll talk to him in just a moment regarding the achievement. We're going to recap a short week in the Wayne Finger Lakes basketball leagues and award our Section 5 Players of the Week and our updated power rankings. Then, Brad Connor returns after a week off to help us break down a rare December Syracuse loss. Yes, it's true, as the Orange were upset by Temple on Saturday in Madison Square Garden. Connor's Corner Trivia, our power rankings, and much more on tap. So take a break from all that shoveling you've been doing and spend the next hour or so with us here on the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Tonight's show is brought to you by Madej, Miras, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured over this holiday season and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-569-0911. And also by Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, Waterloo, and coming soon, Farmington. Visit them online at mygenbank.com. And the Omen Theater showing The Hobbit this week, An Unexpected Journey. Visit omentheater.com for showtimes and coming attractions. Well, now I'd like to welcome in Ben Cratsley, a 4-year varsity player for the Honeoye Bulldogs, who scored his 1,000th point last week in a win over HAC. Ben, congratulations, and welcome to the Upstate Hoops Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, we've followed your career. You've been on varsity since early on in your freshman year, and it's certainly great to have a chance to talk to you, especially after you had that great achievement of 1,000 points, and you did that at home last week against HAC. Tell me a little bit about like the atmosphere at the game when you did that.
Actually, the game before that, South Seneca, I needed 41 points, and there was talk going around that I had 42 points the game before, and they all wanted me to score then, but all my friends were there, and they did a great job on defense on me. So the last game I needed 19 points coming in, and the crowd knew it, the community knew it, and they were all there with streamers and stuff, and when I scored, it was just more of a relief getting it done.
Yeah, and it's great to get to do it at home. And there was an article in the Daily Messenger I saw this week about how in high school sports there aren't many marks, number marks like there are in pro baseball or football or any of the college and pro sports, but 1,000 points is a big one. And a guy to my right here, Matt Verkey, also had 1,000 points. And did they stop the game back then, Verk, when you did it?
You know, I was trying to think of that. I knew we were going to be talking to Ben today, and I knew what game I did it, but I don't remember like the shot I hit to score 1,000 points. So right. I don't believe there was a stoppage of the game. They acknowledged it the game. I think I was on the road actually, and then the next game at home, we kind of had a little ceremony type deal where they announced.
And you probably remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely nice to be able to do it at home. Yeah, a couple other guys in the West did it recently. Jake Rayburn at Bloomfield, Trevor Sanders, and Tyler Hickson did it for Red Jacket in the same game, which is crazy. And that was last year.
I can't imagine that.
I know it. I mean, it's just weird that it would line up like that. So So, Ben, tell me a little bit about your game. We've never had a chance to see you play in person, but we've obviously seen the numbers you've been putting up. Tell us what kind of player you are.
Actually, more this year I've had to facilitate into a point guard because last year we had Kyle Bull, but he graduated last year as the point guard. So I moved from shooting guard to point guard this year, and more had to look for the open man rather than being found as the open man this year and create my own ways. But this year we're starting 5 seniors, so we've all played together. But I mean, we had a tough loss at Naples. But getting back on the Christmas break, I mean,
yep.
We got Red Jacket next week, so tough loss going into a tougher game.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that Naples game. We did get to see Naples play in person last week in Romulus, and it was a 68-48 win, so we were kind of a little surprised with the margin, too. And, not taking anything away from Naples, they have great guards, and but we expected a closer game here. So now, that moves. Naples is 5-0, I believe, and I think one game clearing the league in the FL West right now. But tell me a little bit about that game. What happened?
Going down there, they got off to a fast start. I mean, we were down. Our only lead at the game was 4-3, and that was in the first minute. And then they came out strong shooting threes. I mean, they had to make at least 8 or 9 threes in the first half alone. And we got down. I mean, we were down by, I think, 16 going into halftime. And then we got it back down to 10, and then they just, in the third quarter, they got up by 20 and then never saw their way back into the game. Their team isn't very big, but they get out and run. That's one thing that killed us. They would get on the boards and just outlet pass and run down the court.
Yeah.
3-on-1 breakaway the entire game.
Right, and you guys get to play them again at home, obviously, and I'm sure that's a game you guys will have circled. Like Jim was saying, we got to see Naples play, and we were pretty impressed. It was kind of hard to gauge. Romulus South Seneca was a little down this year, and the game kind of got out of hand pretty quickly. But I know they're solid ball handlers, and they shot the ball pretty good. They were a lot in transition in that game because they got so many steals against Romulus South Seneca. But we look forward to the matchup. You probably play them later on in January or so?
Yeah, maybe early February. We play them at home. I'm looking forward to that game. Trying to get back at them.
And one thing we noticed with Naples is they weren't that big. Now you guys got Solid A at 6'4", and Woodard's another senior at 6'4". How did Naples deal with those big bodies?
They are actually down low. We had some good looks down low. We just weren't finishing. But up on top, their guard. We tried switching from man to zone, but they were just shot lights out. I mean, we would go facilitate all of our defense. Focus on the outside, and then the Tilly kid down low would get wide open shots in the paint. And Sally had a good game. He was just missing a few easy ones. We were getting a lot of touches to him. I don't know. We all have those rough games once in a while.
Sure, absolutely. Now, speaking of games, you guys played tonight, right, in Avoca?
Actually, our tournament got canceled.
Oh, they canceled the whole tournament, huh?
We were supposed to play Avoca and Finney and Hornell, but I guess the whole Hornell tournament got canceled or something, so we've already rescheduled our game against Avoca, actually at our place. Then I think we're playing Finney down the road somewhere. Well,
that's nice. You pick up a home game there. But too bad you're not getting to play over the break. So next time you come back will be against Red Jacket at home on a week from today, it looks like. And then you travel on the road at Bloomfield and pretty much in the heart of the Finger Lakes West from there on out.
That's always a fun game between us and Bloomfield.
Yeah, last year you guys actually met in sectionals, right? You played in Waterloo, wasn't that right?
We played Dundee in Waterloo.
Oh, it was Honeoye Dundee in Waterloo. That's right.
What was that? That was the semis?
Semis, yeah.
And you guys beat them, right?
Yeah, they beat us twice in the season, and we got them in the sectional semis.
Oh, that's right.
And then who'd you play in the final?
York.
York.
Lost by 10.
Okay.
So, talk about some of your teammates, Ben, especially Justin Soliday. I know you guys are both seniors, probably played ball together for a long time. Tell us a little bit about his game and maybe a couple other the players.
Yeah, last year he's the only starter back with me. We lost 3 other starters. Justin's got a great game. When he gets on to finishing, he's a great finisher. He's shooting, I think, somewhere around 60 to 70% from the line as a big man. It's not bad in high school basketball. He's actually, surprisingly, as a center, he's one of the fastest players on our team, so that helps out somewhat. And we also have another big man, Jeff Woodard and Alan Smith, both share the 5 spot. And Allen's a good finisher. And I think more of our team from this year than last year is our height advantage, but then speed-wise, we're slower this year. I think that's why Naples got away from us, is because of the speed reason. But we have Tanner Gladding. He's one of the only, if not, Cody Finster's not starting. Tanner Gladding is a team that's he starts at the 2-man, and he shoots the ball well. And then Brandon Curtis, another senior, he's our 3-man. He's another shooter. But our team, Justin, I mean, they say, I've seen a lot, that it's a 1-2 punch of being solid. I mean, we try to get the pick and roll in practice, but I mean, some teams, if you lock down on 2 players, you got to get the other 3. I mean, it's definitely a rebuilding year this year from what we had last year. But
so do you see a lot of that? A lot of people keying on you and Justin?
Yeah, you could tell right off the start from Naples. They know what they're doing. They came out, and every time we would screen, they'd double team me or Soliday. I mean, ever since day one, we've acknowledged that the 3 other players are going to be the key assets to get into the game. I mean, Cody Finster, he's having 6 or 7 points, and he gets the wide open shot. He's making them. Then down the road, that's what's going to come down to, those 3 finishing what we have to.
I saw Soliday's had a couple pretty big games this year. Had 30-something one game, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had like a 29-point, and then he had a 22-point game, and Brandon Curtis had a 17-point game. We had one game where we had 24, 20, and 17. So
didn't Curtis have an even bigger game? Didn't Curtis?
Maybe because I thought Jim and I were looking. We thought they had your names mixed up between Curtis and Cratsley, because the one game Curtis had a bunch of points.
You're both BC.
That was at School of the Arts. Everyone was saying stuff
like a 32-point output there.
Yeah, 32 or something. Yeah.
Have you had much of a chance to look at think about sectionals and things like that? Who's the strong teams in your class this year for sectionals?
Well, everyone knows. I think everyone in Section 5 knows about Clyde. They're our class. So, man, we got the chance to play them last year, and we won. That was probably one of our toughest games. Was the first round last year when we played them at our place. We won by 2 points on a last-second shot. And then thinking, well, they're coming back this year, the same team plus Canale from DeSales we played last year. So they're definitely the team to beat, I think, in our class.
Yeah, we had a chance to. We did a live webcast last year of Clyde and Lions, so we knew Clyde had just about everybody back, and adding Canale. We've been kind of following them pretty closely, and it seems like the Wayne County League's got some. I think it's a 2-team league basically with Lions and Clyde, and everybody else is kind of down this year rebuilding. Usually ER's up there, and Marion doesn't have a program this year.
Actually, it was we went on the road. That was tough. We didn't expect anything going in there, and we came out with like a 4 or 5 point win out of there for our first game, so it started out well there.
Yeah, that's right. You guys beat ER.
Yeah. And they went to states last year, I believe. ER did, but
they went further than Lions in the tournament.
They lost a lot to graduation, obviously, but we're looking forward to doing the Clyde Lions game, and it's Clyde's obviously they're big. They got some pretty good guards. That's definitely gonna be a tough matchup.
Well, listen, Ben, before we let you get out of here, go through a few things, kind of common questions we ask anybody we have on the show. Before I do that, I want to congratulate you on your 2 Section 5, or Upstate Hoops Podcast Player of the Week awards, which I got your 2 T-shirts all enveloped up and ready to head out to Honeoye. So look for those over the next early next week.
Will do.
Let's see here. Tell me about some of the best players you come up against in the league over your career, either current or past players. Who are some of the best players you've matched up with?
I think match head-on-head last year. I mean, the thing about Brandon Camacho was that we've never even heard of him, and I was on 2 years of varsity, and all of a sudden our coach goes and watches Dundee last year, and we come back. He comes back to the next day in practice, says they have an amazing guard and all this, and you underestimate and don't think. And we see in the first last year, comes up in the first 2 possessions, he just pulls up for 3. So I think me and Brandon talked a lot last year not even between just in the games, but in social networking too. But I think Brandon's one of the best players that I've played against in the league. Then also matching up, this is a little height advantage, but Rayburn from Bloomfield, I remember my freshman year, I got pulled up to my second game of the season. I go in and get swatted into the 3rd row of the stand. So I think those 2, and then the 2 boys from Red Jacket, Hickson and
Sanders?
Sanders, yeah. Those 2 are And actually, it was pretty funny. The day we played in the game before that, they both scored 1,000, and Sanders was only like 5 away. So, and that's another part of he was in the mood for the 1,000-point club too. So those are 4 of the players that I would consider the best that I played against.
Okay. What about some favorite teams, favorite college teams or pro teams? Who do you like to follow?
My favorite college basketball team is Duke. So I can hear stuff for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing I don't understand is you live up here in upstate New York, and Duke's way down there in North Carolina. Syracuse is only about 45 minutes away.
I could kind of sense it in his voice that he was going to say it wasn't Syracuse. I kind of felt that coming.
Well, it was a bit of a loaded question, too, because I was trolling his social networking pages because we were going to do a little, looking for some interview questions here, and I saw that he posted something with a hashtag of Go Duke.
Oh, boy.
And so I considered canceling the interview, but he did score 1,000 points. So
decided to keep him on.
So we figured we'd have him back on. How about any pro teams? Any pro teams you like?
I'm actually going to go with the bandwagon Lakers fan, but I just always like Kobe. I thought he was a great player. But I'm more of a college fan. I like the way, just the atmosphere and the effort they actually put into the games. But this year, I got to admit, the NBA is showing a lot of effort out there. But
yeah, I'm with you, too. We definitely like college ball a little more than NBA, but I did watch a lot of NBA games on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of them, but yeah, I definitely agree. I'd rather watch a big-time college game than any pro game any day.
Ben, any plans after high school? You're a senior, you're a 4-year player on varsity, and now it's time to graduate. What's next?
It's actually going to be a surprise to a lot of people, but I'm actually looking at a golf career outside of after high school. I mean, I've looked at 3 colleges. I've down to 3 colleges: U of R, St. John Fisher, and Florida Atlantic in Florida. And I don't know. I've just always loved golf and got many offers, so it's probably gonna be that way headed.
Yeah, Fisher has a great golf program. I know that. Florida Atlantic, if they're talking to you about golf, or is it?
That's Division I down there. So
yeah, that's a long way away.
I actually missed the basketball game last year. Actually, all my friends that graduated their senior, I missed that game last year to go check out the college down there. So,
what's it like down there at Florida Atlantic? What's the campus like?
It's actually very big. It's almost 25,000 kids. So, but my grandparents actually live 5 minutes. So
no kidding.
It's actually, I don't know, it's somewhere to get away, different, and
sure.
I want to go into business, so I like the program down there.
Do you know what course they play? They play on a course down there that we'd recognize, Florida Atlantic?
It's actually Palm Springs. They play at Palm Springs Country Club. It's a private one.
If you ever want to come up and play St. Falls Country Club, Jim's what are you, a board member, president? What are you?
Yeah, I'm on the board over there at Seneca Falls Country Club.
We played Minders in a golf match over there this year.
Oh, no kidding. Fall golf? Was it in the fall?
We played in the fall, yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice little course. I played there my whole life, and Matt's not kidding. Anytime you're up this way and you want to play around this coming summer, you look me up. I think you already got my number, and I'd be glad to have you down there.
Will do.
And it sounds like you might take my money, though. Well, all right, Ben. We really appreciate you spending some time with us. Hopefully we can catch up again before the season's over and maybe even play a round of golf. Good luck next week against Red Jacket and for the rest of the season. And certainly thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, Ben. Have a good one. Thanks.
You too. Thank you.
See you, Ben.
Well, that was a nice talk with.
I didn't realize he was such a golfer.
You know, I mentioned trolling his social network page. I did see that there were some golf pictures, or maybe it was on the Honeoye website that showed him on the golf team. Yeah. Actually, it was just a general Google search, I think. But yeah, I saw that he was on the golf team, and he did pretty well for himself, and nice. Certainly well-spoken kid, and
definitely
confident. Great interview, and was open to talking about the Naples game.
Yeah, I'm still kind of a little surprised. That Naples handled them by 20 points, but it sounded like Naples got out. In the Ramos game, they didn't really shoot a ton of threes because they were in transition so much. So But obviously he said they had 8 or 9 threes in the first half alone, so that's kind of tough to overcome.
And he did mention they got out well in transition, which in the game we saw against Romulus South Seneca, they got a lot of transition buckets, and some part of the time we were thinking, oh geez, Romulus players got to get back, but I guess when what Naples really does is look to push all the time, and you're going to get some breakouts that way, so. Should be interesting to watch in the West. I think there's more teams than just Naples and Honeoye involved. And speaking of other teams, we should probably get to the Section 5 scoreboard because we have to get old Brad Connor on the line, who I hear is in his car heading to Virginia right now.
Wow.
So who knows where he'll be when we talk to him? But we can reach out to him.
He can handle it on the road like that?
Well, we're going to find out.
Right.
We're going to find out. Lots of surprises on a holiday edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast. So let's go back to last Thursday night. We mentioned some of these scores on last week's game, but there was a lot of action in the Wayne County League. Williamson beat ER by 1, 65-64. Tom Stevens had 27 points, moving Williamson to 3-3. Lions beat Gananda. That was a game that dropped Gananda out of my power rankings and Lions in. And as you said, Verk, it kind of set the bar. The Wayne County League being a 2-team race, 69-41.
Yeah, Gananda came in 5-0, and Lions handled them by 28 points. You also owe me lunch on that game. Remember?
That's right. That's right. Well, maybe tomorrow.
And the fact that Lions beat a 5-0 Gananda team by 28 points, it's obviously pretty impressive. And I think it really set the bar where it's kind of Lions and Clyde and everybody else, in that league at this point.
The Lions found a way to limit Cameron Gray to just 14 points, and 8 of those came from the line, where he was 8 from 8 from the line. We could have used him in Madison Square Garden on Saturday, but and Lions moves to 4-0.
And one thing I noticed about Lions is it seems like they have a great balance this year. I don't know if they had a 20-point scorer yet this year, but everybody seems they got 5 guys with 12 to 16 points, and Damian Scott had 10 assists, and their leading scorer had 14 points in a 28-point win.
Trey Johnson, Jacob Kehoe, and had 10 points. DJ Long had 12. Alex Mussolino had 11, and Devin Veter had 14. And you mentioned Damian Scott. He's a junior. Is a junior coming up from?
I believe so. Yeah.
JVs or sophomore?
I think he's a junior.
10 assists. And when Zach Young was in here prior to the season started, he mentioned that it would be Damian Scott running the point, right. And it looks like he's doing a fine job finding a lot of different guys.
Sure.
And dishing out those 10 dimes. North Rose Wolcott 56, Red Creek 50. Jacob Slobe had 22 for Red Creek, and North Rose Wolcott was led by Chris Deans, 24 points and 12 rebounds. Clyde Savannah was in action, 78 to Sodas is 21. Sodas moves to 0-5. Clyde moves to 5-0. Tom Canale, who Ben Cratsley mentioned in his interview, had 22. Jermaine Bogan had 14. Patrick Harper 10. And Cam DeSanto, 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. And also Jason Doig, 4 assists and 5 steals. So there's a new name, too, getting on the stat board.
I'm sure a lot of guys got to play in that game, given the score of 78-21. Clyde obviously just dominated that game. And I'm sure Lions and Clyde are probably kind of itching to play each other, I would think, at this point, after just kind of cruising so far through the season for both of them.
Yeah, and we'll see the game in Clyde. Last webcast we do this season on February 13th, Lions at Clyde, and that should be incredible.
Sure.
Friday night you had Geneva with a test against Penn Yan, but they come out with a 68-49 win. They outscored Penn Yan 22-11 in the third quarter. Kia Jackson had 14, Junior Sims had 14, and Shane Sweeney had 21. Geneva 6-0. Penn Yan, James Burdett had 16, and Eric Johnson had 12. They're at 3-3. They've had a bit of a tough schedule so far. I think this was a test game for Penn Yan to see if they were going to get in that mix with the other top 3 in the East.
Yeah, I still think it's, I think it's Geneva and Wayne, then Minders is kind of still a little bit above everybody else, but Penn Yan is right behind Minders, I would say. They've played some tough teams. The Burdett kid's a good guy inside. And, I think Penn Yan's, they're going to win some, definitely, they're going to win some games in that Finger Lakes East this year. They I don't know if it's an upset, but they beat Newark earlier this year. So, I'd say Newark, Minders, and then Penn Yan right in there,
Yep. Yeah. Mid Lakes dropped one to Marcus Whitman, so Marcus Whitman picks up their first win, going to 1-6. 58-48 was the score. Matt Hall led the scoring for Whitman with 12. Tyler Rohrbach had 9, and Merritt Bailey had 10. Luke Shively actually had 13 to lead the scoring. Mid Lakes, it was Cam Colasino with 8 and Mike Gelder with 8. And crosstown rivalry game, Minders 63, Waterloo 43. Brandon Pascalacqua finished with 15, Luke Ruddy with 17, and Jimmy Rickey with 14, moving Minders back above 500 at 3-2. For Waterloo, it was Steinruck with 12 and Tom France with 12, and the Indians are now 2-5, also having a really tough early league schedule.
Yeah, I went to that game. I stayed through the first half, and Minders got out to a great start. They were really looking inside early and got off to a hot start. I think they were up, it was 12-0 before Waterloo scored, maybe even 14-0, and they really they got off to a big lead. But Waterloo actually outscored them in the second quarter and kind of hung around. I think they cut it to single digits in the second half. So, I don't think Coach Panic was too disappointed with that effort. Minders obviously it's a great team, great program, and Waterloo got, maybe a little bit nervous starting out, but they fought back and they hung around that game for a while. I mean, you look at the score and, Minders won by 20, but I think it was actually a little bit closer than that, and something maybe Waterloo can build off of.
Sure. Here's a big game on Friday night. Newark and Pelmac, and Newark wins by 12, 75-63. Geez, I tell you, Virk, the Finger Lakes East is tough.
Yeah.
Newark, Pelmac are definitely solid teams that I think that might compete in the West or maybe even in the Wayne County. We're going to find out because Lions plays Newark this year, which is kind of interesting. But Cody Eckerson had 19 for Pelmac, which moves to 3-3. Newark's now 4-2. Anthony Lombardi had 20 points and 15 boards. Ron Derek Morris had 13. David Stone had 11, and Micah Wright scored 15. Dundee beat HAC 66-58. And the game we talked with Ben about, Naples beat Honeoye 68-48 to take the lead in the Finger Lakes West race. Cratsley had 20 in that game, and for Naples it was Jake Ball and C.J. Kobus with 20 and 21 respectively. That starting backcourt for the Big Green Machine. Bloomfield beat School of the Arts, who seems to play every single team in the Finger Lakes.
I think they're playing an independent schedule this year. So
yeah, that's probably why. So 51-36. Bloomfield's 2-2 with the win. Sean Fitzgerald, 12 points and 3 rebounds, and Alex Flattery had 9 points and 10 boards. Red Jacket 67, South Seneca Romulus 40. For Romulus South Seneca, it was Harry Hyde and Alex Porter leading the way. Hyde had 11, Porter had 13. Red Jackets, Mike Giaconia had 16 points and 12 boards. Tyler Liberty had 10 points and 5 assists, and Dominic Vasquez had 10 points. So Red Jackets 3-1, and they're definitely one of those other teams in the mix in the West.
Yeah, mostly I don't think they've, they got Honeoye coming up, and they haven't played Naples yet, or so. We'll see coming up here how strong they are.
Yeah, we never really talked too much about Red Jacket, but, Giacconi and Liberty is a nice 1-2 punch.
Yeah, they always seem to put up pretty good numbers, and, South Seneca kind of struggled again there, but, I did check the box score, and Porter, he's still struggling from the foul line there. I think he missed, another 8 or 9 free throws that game.
He had 13 points. If he makes his free throws, he scores, 17,
he probably
18,
averages 20 points a game if he makes his free throws, so.
And then another shout-out from the Monroe League. It was Canandaigua and Victor matching up, and the final tally on that one, a Canandaigua victory, 34-33. I wonder if our buddy Brendan Harrington called that one for the radio.
It must have been a thriller.
Close, but
both these teams are kind of struggling this year, and there's no breathers in the Monroe County League. There's no nights where you get to play, a really down team.
Right.
Each school's so big that they all have pretty strong programs.
Well, these two, when they play each other, that's probably,
right.
Which, makes me wonder why not stay out here and play in the Finger Lakes leagues. But because, Victor's 0-7 right now. Canandaigua's 2-4.
Yeah, I think they just got too big. Victor's growing, and, Canandaigua's actually gotten a little bit smaller, I think. But for years, they played, I think in the other sports, they would just dominate, football and things like that. We can't really compete with them.
Even lacrosse.
Lacrosse, wrestling. They just got so many numbers. But neither school has ever, I couldn't tell you the last time either one of them won a sectional title in basketball. Yeah. Canandaigua's had some strong girls programs in basketball, but the boys have always been decent, but just, you think at a school the size of Canandaigua or Victor, they would, eventually string together a great team, but it just hasn't happened.
So that's all the scores from the week. It was a short week. There were supposed to be some games last night, but they got canceled. As Ben Cratsley was telling us that their whole tournament got canceled. They're trying to make up a couple of those games, but not in the context of that tournament. Minders are supposed to be down in Elmira last night. That got snowed out. Do you know what the status of that is, Virk?
I don't. I haven't heard.
Because they haven't posted if they were going to resume that tournament tonight.
Seems like they could play. I mean, the roads are pretty clear now. It seems like they could get down there.
Yeah, most of these tournaments are just moved up and are now playing tonight and tomorrow. So, and we're talking about great tournament in Red Jacket with Red Jacket, Mid Lakes, Lions, and Sodas. I was looking forward to seeing some of those matchups.
Yeah, that's two of the teams that don't have a win yet this year, but. I guess Lions Red Jacket will be a good meeting whenever they play each other.
Yeah, which would probably be the outcome. Prattsburg tournament, Naples is down there playing against Bath Haverline and Prattsburg. Honeoye's in Avoca with C.J. Finney. Nice tournament in Wayne. Wayne, Marshall, North Rose Wolcott, and Williamson. So we're going to get a chance to look at the Wayne Eagles. And then I love this one. The tournament down in Watkins Glen, Clyde Savannah heading down to the IAC to face Watkins Glen in Watkins Glen. Again, that's another game I was really looking forward to, so I'm not sure if that's going to be rescheduled to tonight or tomorrow night. But, if you watch the front page of FingerLakes1.com, we got all the scores and updates the next morning and sometimes the night of the games. So other than that, Red Creek's playing Tyburn Academy and Bloomfield's playing Livonia. And that's pretty much it for games, coming up next week.
Yeah, it's been a quiet, week and a half here with the holiday and then New Year's. And, they'll get back in the swing of things the following Friday.
We're actually running a few minutes behind our schedule here. I know Brad's probably getting antsy. He can't, watch the show. He's in his car.
Right.
So he has no idea what's going on. He's just waiting for the call. So we should probably move it along here.
All right.
But let's get to our Section 5 Player of the Week who wins a FingerLakes1.com T-shirt, your choice of white and gray. Or if you win it twice like Ben Cratsley, you get one of each. All you have to do is email upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com. And say you've won, give us your address and shirt size, and we'll get them right out. In my Section 5 Player of the Week, Virk, this week is Anthony Lombardi of Newark. He had 20 points and 15 boards in a win against Palmac, which is a tough team, on Friday night. And so with most teams only played one game this week, and that can't get much better than 20 and 15.
No, it's 15 rebounds in a high school game. Obviously, that's a rebound every 2 minutes just about. And so that's a nice game for him, 20 points, 15 rebounds, and a nice win for Newark over Palmac.
So Anthony Lombardi's my pick. Who you got, Bert?
I got Jake Ball from Naples. We saw him play against Romeo South Seneca, and pretty impressed with him in that game. And then to come out, he had 20 points in the win over Honeoye. Right. And, probably a huge win for their program, really, to go to 5-0 and give them the early upper hand in the Finger Lakes West League race. So Jake Ball was my player of the week. So
congratulations, Anthony and Jake. To claim your FingerLakes1.com T-shirt, just send an email to upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com with your shirt size and mailing address, and we'll send it right out to you. So let's move ahead now to our Finger Lakes power rankings. And I guess I'll go first like I usually do, Verk. I got Lions at 5. I think I'm misjudged their talent level or their chemistry. Zach Young's a great coach, I think, like you said, we looked at their last box score. They have all these guys in double figures, but nobody, with 20 or 30. And I think that's a testament to Zach. And, I think he mentioned that some of the guys on the team were a little upset that I had Gananda in my power rankings instead of Lions. So they proved me wrong. A convincing win. I moved him up to 5, and I thought about moving him a little higher. It's too bad they don't get to play Minders. Minders is my number 4 team, and we're so close to those. I think that would be a great game. So I got Minders 4, Clyde Savannah 3, Geneva 2, and Wayne 1. And I don't see much moving until some of these teams meet.
Yeah, I got a top 5 similar to yours. You got Naples kind of hanging out there. They'd be
I thought about
one, but
putting
it's
them
just in some of the crossovers, like Honeoye beat East Rochester by 2. Naples kind of beat Honeoye by a lot, but I don't know. I just think that Lions and Clyde in the West, and then the top 3 in the East would beat any team in the West at this point. But I guess that's yet to be determined in sectionals. We'll probably see some of those matchups and things like that. But I got Lions at number 5. Just well balanced or well coached. The Lions always has great athletes. They're always able to get 5 good athletes on the floor, and Coach Young's got them playing well so far this year. Minders at number 4. Kind of a little lull for them. They lost a couple games there. Didn't really play great against Waterloo, but I think they kind of relaxed after they got the big lead there, and we'll see what happens if they're able to play in this tournament and see how that goes. Then I got Clyde at number 3. Just great size, good guard play. Just continued to totally roll over people pretty much. They haven't really been challenged all year. Then I got Wayne number 2. And I still got Geneva number 1. Yeah. I haven't seen Wayne play personally, so that's kind of just watching Geneva. I thought they were well balanced. They're athletic. They're big. They got great size throughout the lineup, and I'm going to keep Geneva at my number 1 spot.
And we'll get a first-hand look at Wayne when they come to play Minders. That's a game we're webcasting.
And I don't know if you saw, but Sweeney signed with Albany to play football.
Yeah, which was what he was kind of telling us he was leaning towards doing. And congratulations to him. He's a great athlete all around, but football's his best sport.
Oh yeah, by far. That's the AA subdivision, whatever it's called now.
Yep.
And they're actually moving to the Colonial, where it's a great league with William Mary's in that league. That's why I kind of follow a little bit.
Those teams are always upsetting.
Yeah, they beat Division I teams all the time, and that'd be great to hopefully can follow his career down there.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsors. But before we do, I just want to say, to Madej, Maris, and Ricky, happy holidays, Steve, Mike, Emil, Christy, and all their families. We really appreciate your support of local high school sports and the Upstate Hoops podcast and the live webcast we do. And the same goes for Generations Bank, Menzo Case, Sandy Ferrara, Lori Parrish, Jim King, etc. and company over there. They do a great job, and they continue to grow. 2013 going to be a great year for them. And then, of course, Bob Oman and the Oman Theater. Merry Christmas, Bob and Leslie. We appreciate everything you do with Finger Lakes One throughout the year, and, of course, your support of your communities and local high school sports. And I should mention, this will be the last show that the Oman Theater is sponsoring because as of next year, the sponsorship's shifting to the Newark Pilots, as we're going to try to make people aware of their upcoming season and some of the deals that are available in season tickets. And a lot of exciting things going on up there in Newark. New locker room, which, for a team in the perfect game collegiate baseball league in Newark, New York, they got a locker room as good as probably the Syracuse Chiefs, maybe. And
I haven't been able to get up there. I know you and Jeremy talked a lot about how nice it is there.
So great.
What a great job Mr. Ullman's done up there. And next year I have to bring the kids up and catch a game.
And we're sitting here in the middle of winter, covered by 1.5 feet of snow right now. But I'm just kind of thinking back in my mind to some of the summer nights we spent in Newark at Colburn Park. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that over the second half of the Upstate Hoops podcast season. And for now, let's take about 60 seconds and get Brad on the line and hear from our sponsors.
Attention Finger Lakes residents, have you been injured and deserve compensation? Call Madej, Maris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. Your case deserves personal attention. At Madej, Maris, and Ricky, they know you by name, not just a number on a folder. Call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. Madej, Maris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys.
The most valuable things are always passed down from generation to generation. It's true for your family, and it's true for our bank. For more than 140 years at Generations Bank, we've greeted you by name, planned with you for the future, and stood by you when you needed a hand. It's what we do, and what we'll continue to do for generations into the future. We might look different now, but in the important ways, we're exactly like we've always been. Stop in your local branch or go to mygenbank.com.
And welcome back to episode number 8 of season 2 of the Upstate Hoops podcast. And just got to reiterate, Vic, that was a great interview with Ben Cratsley. We have to have him back on.
It was. We were just talking. For a high school kid, he did a great job as far as talking. And I remember doing high school interviews as a player when I was in high school, and you kind of feel nervous and stuff like that. I didn't really sense any of that with him. He just very well spoken. Seems like he knows what he wants to do with his future, and maybe he'll come down and take some money off you at the Seneca Falls Country Club this year.
Well, maybe he thinks it will be.
He
easy.
might think you're a scrub.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't realize
that's
you're
what I
pretty
used to
good,
think about old guys too. Was that they weren't very good, but about a 6 or 7 handicap nowadays. So, and it would be my home turf.
Yeah, that's true.
So, well, as our regular listeners know, we spend the first half talking about local high school basketball, and then we delve into the world of Syracuse and college basketball. And as usual, although not last week, he was off, but as usual, we have our resident college basketball junkie on the line. He's en route between Cincinnati and Virginia in his car. He's also a golfer, born and bred at Seneca Falls Country Club. Maybe we can get him in our foursome with Cratsley. But welcome back, Brad, after a week off. How you doing?
All right, guys. Nice to be back with you.
Where are you right now?
I'm sitting in a parking lot at Mary Baldwin College in Stanton, Virginia.
Are you with the family?
No, I dropped them off with my sister-in-law and found a place on the top of the hill where I could get cell phone reception.
Oh, okay. Not too good reception down there in Stanton, Virginia, huh?
There's a few nooks and crannies in the mountains, so I found the highest point I could find.
Is your wife from Virginia?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Her sister lives in the mountains.
Okay.
It's got country out here, and she's from Richmond, so that's where we got connected.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to Laura and the kids. I don't know, Brandon's probably a little upset that Florida has a couple losses now.
His power rankings will be all shaken up.
Well, let's get right to it, guys. Syracuse loses. What the heck's going on? Temple 83, Syracuse 79 on Saturday. I'm going to let you guys give your impressions first. How about you, Brad? You've been, I'm sure you watched the game. What do you think?
It was weird. It's just because Syracuse loses so infrequently these days, it was just a weird feeling to digest a game like that you didn't really see coming. Last year, I think the Notre Dame loss, you sort of saw it coming a little bit because Fab Melo was out. The loss in the Big East tournament, maybe a little surprising, but UC was hot. And then, in the tournament, obviously, Ohio State was tough. So it's been, a loss like that kind of blindsided us. That was a weird one, we'll talk for a while about things we saw and didn't see. But yeah, that was the biggest takeaway was, wow, that's weird. It's something I haven't had to deal with in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 20 consecutive regular season games dating back to last January when they lost at Notre Dame, and it's their first non-conference regular season loss since 2008 when Cleveland State made that half-court shot. So it is weird. And I was sitting here last week talking about how it was going to be an easy win. And obviously I was wrong, and that's the thing about college basketball. A couple guys in Temple come to play, have a career nights, and Syracuse misses their free throws, and it's over. What'd you think, Verk?
I was disappointed, and we talked, and the rebounding margin was pretty even throughout the game, but I thought Temple was able to get more offensive rebounds than I thought they were going to get, and Syracuse didn't get as many. Would they have 19 offensive rebounds? But they had a lot of missed shots to rebound.
Yeah.
And the two things I looked at from that game were the free throws and their work on the boards was their downfall. And a couple times they held Temple. Temple kind of took a kind of a forced shot late in the shot clock, and then they'd get the rebound and pull it back out.
Yeah,
and they really shortened the game down. In the last 3-4 minutes, there's only 4 or 5 different possessions. And
they were able to run when we pressed. They broke that press and they ran. But
yeah, Temple's well coached. I think maybe they're coming off a loss to Canisius by 10 points, and I'm sure that was a nice wake up call for Temple and Coach Fran Duffy. And they came out and really took it to Syracuse. They got some career nights from like Lee and Wyatt. Just played great games. Wyatt was 15 for 15 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
And Michael Carter Williams really had his first bad game, and
terrible.
It really showed you how much Syracuse has relied on him this year. And it's kind of they got down and said, okay, Michael Carter Williams, bring us back, and he couldn't. They kind of quit running their offense, I thought. It was just him driving to the basket. He shot 3 for 17 from the field, which isn't his game, and 7 for 15 from the free throw line.
And the thing is, Verk, I see that Syracuse wins this game if they make their free throws, despite all the other bad things that happened, and we'll get into some of those things. But if they just make their free throws, they win this game against a team that has 2 guys having a career game that go almost perfect from the line, because Lee was 11 for 14 from the line. They were 29 of 36 from the line, 80%, and Syracuse was 19 of 34, and that's with C.J. Fair going 8 for 8. And so, a lot of times – I get into this particular topic a little early, but a lot of times you watch Boeheim coach a game and you think, he doesn't run an offense. He just, he clears out for Carter Williams or Johnny Flynn or whoever it is, late in game situations. And, people think that makes him not a good coach. But I'm thinking if I'm sitting there coaching this team, is that their best strategy? Because it seems to, Carter Williams did get to the free throw line 15 times. So that's when you... late in the game, that's what you want to do. You want to get your point guard or your scorer to the free throw line, and he got there 15 times. He just didn't make them. So I don't necessarily put that on Boeheim. Sometimes I would like to see him run some stuff, but it seems like maybe a lot of people overthink it. You get it to one of your best players. Trish is another guy that can get to the basket, and Carter Williams made the free throws against Detroit and missed them against Temple. What do you think about that, Brad?
I mean, credit to Fran Dumphy. His strategy, from what I could tell, was, play off Carter Williams, let him drive to the basket, let him take an outside shot, but we're not going to let him pick apart defense and drive and dish, which we've seen him do all season long, and he's fantastic at it. I think they gave him the lane and forced him to make tough shots, and he couldn't do it. And I think that was a lot of the strategy, and rather than overplaying Carter Williams, and then it leaves guys open inside, and he picks them apart, and once he started missing free throws, then it became an even more conscious strategy of, okay, we'll just let him have the lane, and then we'll just hack him and see what happens.
Yeah, and the rebounding, both teams were getting a lot of offensive rebounds. I think it was 19-19. In offensive, and Temple out-rebounded us 44-41, which we should never get out-rebounded by a team like Temple. But, Michael Carter Williams also was getting taunted by the fans. They were chanting Lord and Taylor.
Well, you knew that was going to happen. So.
And so you wonder if that contributed to his poor performance, especially with something like shooting less than 50% from the free throw line. You wonder if stuff like that's going to get into this kid's head, because that can't happen, because he's going to hear it all over the place, starting when they go down to South Florida and Providence in a couple weeks. I
think just another concern for Syracuse is typically over the years they they don't commit a lot of fouls, and it seems like they're committing a lot more fouls this year at a higher rate. Sutherland fouled out. They had a couple guys with 4 fouls.
Speaking of fouls, what about Keita's moving pick foul at the end of that game? I mean, I thought that was a bad call that really stifled their chances.
It was. And, Trish had that 3 from the corner that went in and out that goes in, and I think that would have given them a 1-point lead at that point. Syracuse had their chances. Temple played really well. It's not the end of the world. We talked about it last year with the loss to Notre Dame. This is a young team, a very, very talented team, and this always keeps them grounded and makes them that much more hungry, and hopefully they can rebound from this and learn from it.
Yeah, learning from it is the key, especially because this was a team I think that might have thought a little bit too much of themselves, which you can't blame. You're in high school, coming into college as a 18, 19, 20-year-old, and you feel like you're on an NBA team when you're in Syracuse, where every move you make is talked about in online forums or in social media, or you're getting the front page of the Post-Standard on all the local TVs, podcasts like this. So it's easy to get a big head, I think, when you're playing college basketball at Syracuse, and they were pretty much unbeatable this season, and then the team shows up and they didn't seem to respond. So hopefully it's a wake-up call for Carter Williams. I don't think Trish necessarily needs a wake-up call. And honestly, other than Carter Williams, this kind of is what it was. It is Syracuse. I don't understand Trevor Cooney. He's starting to get me worried, because if he doesn't work out, they got issues, because, what are you going to do? Start moving C.J. Fair up to guard when, you got Sutherland?
Yeah, with Cooney, the thing that's worrisome to me is he had a wide open 3-pointer and he airballed it. You know what I mean? You don't do that. You just don't see that from a shooter of his caliber, or what his caliber is supposed to be.
Yeah.
He wide open 3-pointer. You got to at least catch some iron. And the other thing here, DeJuan Coleman, 4 minutes. I'm not sure what the deal was there. If obviously Bam didn't feel he was a good matchup out there, and I thought Christmas should have played a little bit more. I think he's best big man they got. I know they like to put Keita in when they press, and they were pressing a lot, but the press really wasn't doing anything.
17 minutes for Christmas.
As a team, they had 3 block shots. The big guys just didn't really do much.
Yeah, and it's tough if you're Coleman with 4 minutes to do much, but even Christmas with only 17 minutes, he was 2 for 7 shooting. He pulled down 6 boards, but wasn't much of a factor in the game at all with only 17 minutes. Keita, I thought, played great.
Yeah,
I thought he was active on the boards, but I don't think that it's necessarily fair at this point in Christmas's career to put him out there for 17 minutes in a game like this, especially a game that you lose. What are your thoughts on the way Boeheim uses his big men, Brad?
Yeah, it just feels like Keita's the only guy he has any confidence in right now, just to be steady and be somebody he can count on for anything defensively. I think offensively he's probably to the point where he probably only thinks he's going to get 10 points out of the center spot, and that's kind of it. And then what he can get defensively is probably where he's focused on, and Keita's going to bring more defensively, I think, than Coleman. I think he's showing he gets out of position and he gets the quick hook, and Christmas takes some chances maybe he shouldn't take, and so Keita's the guy. And yeah, to me, that's probably the biggest concern. If there's any concerns really coming out of this game, it's what kind of production can you get out of the center spot? You can't put only 4 offensive threats out there, and the defense is going to exploit that.
And one other thing that stuck out to me was, and we talked about it real early on in the season, then it kind of went away when Sutherland was hitting all his threes and Carter Williams hitting threes and Trish was hitting threes, but 2 for 12 from the 3-point line, it's not going to get it done.
Yeah, this
Trish went 1 for 3 and Fair went 1 for 1. The rest of the team was 0 for. Sutherland 0 for 2, Michael Carter Williams 0 for 5. They didn't shoot a ton of them, thank God, but like you said, Cooney, he's supposed to be that shooter, and he hasn't really done it. And when Sutherland's not making threes, Brandon's not a great 3-point shooter. It's the one thing. Most great college teams have a couple guys who can, knock them down at the 40-45% rate, and outside of Sutherland, I don't really see it on this team.
And I don't necessarily see it in Sutherland. Temple obviously keyed on him, and to his credit, he was active on the boards. He had eight rebounds and then was fairly solid defensively. But he wasn't getting his shot, and when the two he did get, he didn't make. And you're right, when Sutherland's missing, and Carter Williams is 0 for 5, and Cooney's, who knows what's going on with Cooney? What's left? C.J. Fair was 1 for 1, and Trish. So,
and I think a lot of people have said to me that Carter Williams can't shoot. I think he can. He's got good mechanics. He's had some games where he's hit 3 or 4 3-pointers this year. He's just missing right now from the 3-point line. I don't know.
I think he forces it. I think he's
he's wide open. If he wants,
that's true. He is open. Early in the shot clock, he's taking a lot too many. I
think it's by design. He's open from out there. Sometimes they're going to go underneath the picks on him, the pick and roll, and if they're going to give him anything, it's going to be a 3-point shot right now.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, he can get to the hole. Go ahead, Bram.
I almost feel more confident with Carter Williams shooting a 3 than I do Cooney right now. I mean, I almost shudder when I see Cooney go up for one because half the time it might be an air ball.
Well, I think the team's working itself out, finding itself. They lose Scoop, Mello, and Joseph. That's major contributors last year, so everybody's got to figure out how this team's going to do it. And we have a couple more games to do that against Alcorn State and Central Connecticut. They're combined 6-16, and then the Big East play starts, and that's when we're going to find out if this team's as good as I think they are. I'm really not going to put too much stock in that MSG game. Things like that happen, and like I said, as bad as they played and all this stuff we've talked about, they would have won if they just shot free throws at a 70% clip. So I'm not going to get too concerned about it. One bright spot. Everybody's been waiting for C.J. Fair to break out, and he 25 points, 7 rebounds, 8 for 8 from the line. Solid contribution by Fair. I kind of wish that we went to him a little bit more down the stretch of that game, inside, in the paint. So,
yeah, Fair played great. If on the positive side, that loss was, I think we saw how good C.J. Fair can be.
Yeah, and we'll probably see a lot more of it as the games get closer. I think that was no surprise, that in a tight game that he ended up being the leading scorer.
I saw him more active in that game than I had in the previous couple of games. A lot of times you see him sort of sit back and let some of the other guys, Carter Williams especially, kind of take control. And I think CJ recognized that he needed to be that guy, and he took the bull by the horns. It's sort of the same way we've kind of been waiting for Chris Joseph in years past to do that. There's occasions where he did.
Yep.
They did that same thing, and you hope you see more of that.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be the price you pay if you're going to key on Sutherland. When is that it would open things up a little bit more for Fair. That's the nice thing about this team. We got so much talent that I would like to think that if you focus on one or two guys defensively, that there's plenty of other guys that are going to make you pay for that strategy. So the loss dropped the Orange from 3 to 7 in the USA Today poll and 3 to 9 in the AP poll. And Brad, I'm sorry you missed last week. We had Eric Lorenzetti, though, sitting in, taking your place. I don't know if you got to watch the episode.
The nice part about the long drive I had today was I got to listen to all 2 hours.
Yes, it was an extended episode, but of course Eric really well, and what a great guy to have fill in.
Yeah, Red did yeoman's work. He definitely brought it on the trivia, and he knows his stuff too. It's good. He's and adds a little different perspective, like I do, kind of a Midwestern flavor to it.
Yeah, and he doesn't like the Big Ten, even though he lives out there. So, but what the reason I bring that up, Brad, is we talked about obviously at length Jim Boeheim's 900th win, and Doug Gottlieb's Sports Minute podcast. Well, this week Doug Gottlieb came out with another article, like a 2,500 word article about how Boeheim's not a great coach. I don't know if you got to read that, but I'm wondering your thoughts on Boeheim's 900th and the Gottlieb, hate from Gottlieb.
Well, this is good because I know you guys just barely scratched the surface on this one last week, so it's good that we can dive into it a bit deeper. But the piece was the same points he was making in the minute podcast he had. It was just the more elaboration. A week after the fact, he feels compelled to dive into it even deeper. He's got an axe to grind. He's going to grind it as much as he possibly can. He's got a the arguments he made those 4 arguments. He cherry-picked the 4 easiest ones he could on Boeheim, which is ludicrous that those were the only 4 that he chose. And it had nothing to do with how he's underachieved or he's overachieved with talent that has been nowhere near the kind of talent that North Carolina gets, that Duke gets, that Kansas gets. Never mentioned any of that. Only these guys don't excel in the pros. Well, they don't excel in the pros because they're probably not as talented to begin with.
And a lot of people don't excel in the pros. Like, there's really about 5 guys out of college that excel in the pros each year. There's so many international players.
You could say that. I mean, look at North Carolina guys lately, like Ed Davis, and you never hear from these guys again. They've obviously had good pros, but every program, Duke, I mean, they got, most of the guys who are great in the NBA are coming from unknown colleges almost. And, I just thought, Brad, just on with Gottlieb's points, the one point I give him is Boeheim's, tournament record is suspect. Only the four Elite Eights. But other than that, who cares if anybody copies your system? Yeah. Who cares how your guys do in the pros? It's college basketball, not pro. You should be judged on how they doing while they're in college. And I even forget what his other point was, but just 3 out of the 4 just were, like you said, just things he kind of made up. This is my criteria, and he doesn't meet them.
Yeah, and Brad, you mentioned the cherry picking of those. To me, the biggest indicator of the quality of coach at the college level, and this would really go for almost any sport in college, is the state of the program when they took over and the state of the program when they left. And, you can't argue that Boeheim has built a national power out of a team that used to play in front of 200 people at the Syracuse War Memorial. So
right. Yeah, that was a great point, and I agree completely. There's a handful of guys that you can make that same claim about, but there's a lot of guys that just sort of keep status quo and get a lot of wins and get a lot of acclaim for it. But, yeah, the program's not any better than it was.
Well, I did want to get your thoughts on that because it was a great conversation last week, and that's the main reason we went 2 hours, and I kind of wish you could have been involved in that too. It was, Red had some great thoughts, and we actually played the podcast by Gottlieb, so...
what's funny I heard this week, and you guys didn't mention it, I don't think. You maybe touched on it, about Gottlieb having an axe to grind. I didn't realize that until I read it this week, that both his parents went to Syracuse, and his grandfather went to Syracuse. I mean, he's got this legacy at Syracuse, and to me, that's the biggest reason he's got this axe to grind, is because his whole family went there, and he didn't get recruited by Syracuse.
Yeah, Boeheim didn't even give him a look. He wanted to go there. It was his dream school.
Right. I never realized that.
Can you believe that? So that's the thing about the way Gottlieb does this, is it's so obvious on so many levels why. That reason that he wanted to go to Syracuse and didn't even get recruited, and then when he got tossed out of the Big East because of the credit card thing at Notre Dame, and then when he called out Boeheim on something, Boeheim shot right back at him with a comment about the credit cards.
And said he couldn't play in the Big East.
Yeah, Gottlieb said that something about Syracuse's program was fraudulent, and Boeheim said the only thing fraudulent is Doug Gottlieb using credit cards or something like that, and then he went on to say that he couldn't hack it in our league. So, and then the rivalry was born. But you know what? If you want to be considered a legitimate journalist, I think you need to put personal feelings aside and assess things reasonably. And we all agree that he wasn't very reasonable in that assessment of Coach.
But the problem is we're smarter than that, and there's too many people out there that only studied at the surface and are more easily influenced by somebody who's got that public forum.
Yeah, and people that don't like Syracuse jump on that stuff. They see, Doug Gottlieb says that Boeheim's not a great coach. I told you he wasn't a great coach.
Right.
Well, a couple other notes here before we move on to some trivia. Chris McCullough will not reclassify to the class of 213. He's a Syracuse commit who last week we said was considering moving up a year and coming in with next year's class, which would have been just absolutely ridiculous because we don't really need him yet. So we'll see you in 2014, Mr. McCullough. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but Fab Mello is on fire in the D League up in Maine. 14 blocks on Saturday as part of a triple-double in an 85-78 loss to the Erie Bayhawks. Mello had 15 points and 16 rebounds and 14 blocks in that game. And then last night, he was in Idaho to face the Stampede. And the Maine Red Claws lost that game, or they won 108-94. Mello scored 32 points, had 9 rebounds, and 9 blocks. What the heck, Fab?
I don't understand what that defense was doing by giving Fab opportunity for 32 points.
Yeah, and I think Jason Collins is the Celtics center now. They're having some injuries up there. You'd think maybe you might see Fab come up soon, but Doc Rivers said on Sunday that he hasn't talked to anyone that thinks he's ready to come up yet. He said that after the 14 block performance, and then Fab scores 32 and is 9-9. And the thing about the D League is, wouldn't you say that the D League, the competition's better than in college?
Yeah, I would have to think so. It's guys who are, right at the next level, right there to make the NBA. It's kind of like it's the developmental league for the NBA. So I would think the athletes are better and things of that nature. But then you don't, how much. I haven't really watched too much of the D League, but I don't know how much effort's being displayed by these guys out there. If they're just, everybody's trying, they're out for their own, which I'm surprised like a big guy can get 32 points because usually the guards just dominate that kind of thing. And But I'll have to try to catch a D League game and see what it's all about.
I think you can get them online, NBA.com.
Yeah, NBA Network if you guys get that.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Because I like watching the summer league when the guys are in the summer league. You see a lot of college guys who used to foul who don't pan out in the NBA and things like that. I enjoy watching that. So maybe the D League is.
I don't watch too much NBA, but I had the Thanksgiving or Christmas Day games on. I just turned on the last 5 minutes of the Celtics game, and I saw Chris Joseph, and he shot it every time he touched it.
He got called back up actually. Now he's back up in Boston.
Yeah, I was glad to see him in. And I turned it on just the right time. He was in, and Garnett's waving the towel on the bench or whatever. They're beating Brooklyn by a million, and he just jacked it up every chance he got.
Did he make any?
He scored with 3 seconds left in the game.
Hey, good old Chris Joseph.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, Syracuse has Elkhorn State on Saturday. They're going to play 3 times before we're back here in the studio. Hosting Elkhorn State on Saturday. It's at 7 o'clock. In an afternoon and evening delight for Orange fans, you got the Pinstripe Bowl at 3:15 against WVU in Yankee Stadium, and then Elkhorn State at 7 o'clock in the Dome. And then this would be Monday night. They got Central Connecticut, who
New Year's Eve, huh?
Yeah, New Year's Eve. I think it's a day game. I know I got it down here someplace. Let me get this right here. Yeah, it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on ESPNU. As ESPN assumed that would be the game that we surpassed Coach Knight, that Boeheim would get his 903rd win, I think. But instead it's going to only be the tie, assuming they beat Elkhorn State. And then after that, they open up the Big East season on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock against Rutgers. And so when we're back here next Thursday night at our normal time of 9, we'll be able to recap that the Big East opener for the Orange. And then after that, they go to South Florida and then to Providence. And then we're right into January in the swing of things. So good week ahead for Orange fans for both football and basketball. But without further ado, Brad, you got some trivia for us?
I have some trivia for you. We touched on this a little bit a couple weeks ago. And I love this type of trivia because I work with numbers all the time, and the numbers fascinate me. And we touched on it briefly, the different guys in Syracuse history that worn different numbers, and had a little extra time in the car today and did some research on the leading scorers of the different guys that wore different numbers.
I love where you're going with this.
So, give you an easy one. Who's the leading scorer to ever wear number 44?
Coleman.
Coleman it is. Although
Wallace right behind him.
Close second on that one.
2 of the top 3 were 44.
Top 3 guys. First, obviously, Coleman. Second, Wallace. And third, you guys have any idea?
Third, number 44. Part of me wants to say Danny Shays.
No, that's not a bad guess. He's actually 5th to wear 44.
Am I looking for a player prior to Danny Shays?
He wore it just prior to Danny Shays.
Then that has to be.
It was mid-70s.
Yeah, I can't. I don't remember the numbers of these guys. I don't think Bowie wore 44, and I don't think Orr wore 44. Dale Shackelford.
No.
I don't know if he wore 44 either.
No, he didn't.
Rudy Hackett.
Yes, Marty Burns.
Marty Burns. Yeah, good one. And for some reason, I didn't know he wore 44 now that you mention it. Good old Marty Burns. Not to be confused with Marty Head.
You know what's a crazy, this is an insane statistic. Marty Burns and Marty Head both scored 1,159 points for Syracuse in their careers.
And they're the only two players named Marty ever to play for Syracuse.
I think that's true. Marty Head did it in one extra game, so Marty Burns is
wow.
a slot ahead in the career scoring list.
And congratulations, Marty Burns.
Yeah, see, I told you guys, I love my numbers. All right, who's the leading scorer to wear number 1 in Syracuse history, since Carter Williams has it now? And all these statistics are prior to this season, but I don't think any of the changes based on this season.
I'm gonna say Hakeem Warwick.
Me too, since I don't know a lot of number ones. Well, yeah, I'll say Warwick.
Another one. Warwick is good. Andy Routins was second.
Yeah. Right.
Warwick is the.
And then Alan Griffin must have been probably about 6th.
Alan Griffin is 3rd on the list of guys who wore number 1.
Oh, wow.
Only 4 guys in history have worn number 1 for Syracuse.
I just said 6 because I figured there were some older guys that maybe wore number 1. Alan Griffin's the only other number 1 I remember, along with those two.
Yeah, and Carter Williams.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Well, if he stays long enough, he could have that esteemed honor.
Give the top 3 guys to wear number 3.
GMAC 1.
Yep.
I don't remember any other number 3s.
You don't have to go back very far.
Would it be what did Flynn? Flynn was 5.
10.
Jackson was 0. Devendorf was 23.
What number was Pearl?
31.
31, that's right.
We don't got to go back far, huh? Matt Rowe, is he on the list?
He's not on the. He wore number 3, but he's not on the list.
Yeah.
He wore 21 and 3. Matt Rowe.
Oh, no kidding. So you only count his points when he scored 3? When he wore 3?
That's what. Well, he was a Syracuse for only 3 years.
Right.
He wore 3, and one of them he wore 21, or vice versa. I don't even know.
And he's off to Maryland, and now he's a radio guy.
On the all-time Syracuse scoring list, even in those 3 years. But yeah, I don't know how his number 3 points ranked. They don't rank as high as these other 3 guys. I'll tell you that.
Dante Green.
No, Dante Green wore 21.
Oh, geez, I was way off. I thought he was number 3.
No, what did Dante Green? No, he wore 5.
5. Geez, I'm stumped for the sake of time. Unless you got a guess for it, I think we got to give up on this one.
Last year, guys, who wore number 3 last year? Come on.
Oh, it wasn't Scoop. It wasn't Chris Johnson. It wasn't
Chris Joseph.
Chris Johnson.
Tonight.
Who wore number 3 last year for Syracuse? Boy, I'm gonna.
A hint. Plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers now.
Oh, Dion. What am I talking about? Man, so Dion. So there really haven't been a lot of good number 3s that have stayed 4 years.
Well, Dion's 3rd on that number 3 list. The guy that's 2nd behind McNamara, Preston Shumpert.
Oh yeah, he was number 3. That was an obvious one. Good one.
Yeah. Number 12. Who's the leading number 12 in history?
Raphael Addison.
Very good. Because I always liked Raphael Addison.
Yeah, we don't talk about Raphael Addison enough on this podcast. He's one of the best ever.
You're right. That's why I felt like compelled to bring him up. Number 40.
40. Geez, I don't remember many 40s. I'm going to say, was that Bowie or Orr?
No, more recent, but not.
Otis Hill.
No, he was a single-digit number.
Was he?
I think.
Otis Hill was. What number was he?
Didn't Sapola?
No, Otis Hill was number 4.
Didn't Sapola wear number 40 or something? Or maybe it was Janulis? Didn't they wear? I don't know what I'm talking about.
No. Eric Sanifer.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's wasn't even thinking along those lines. Yeah, he's probably one of the only number 40s to really be decent. 40's an odd basketball number.
Number 23.
Devendorf. Yeah,
Devendorf.
Devendorf. Yeah.
Yeah, Devendorf. You know who else wore number 23?
Michael Jordan.
Seneca Falls' own Dave Justy.
No kidding. Shout out to Dave Justy.
I don't even know how much he played on the basketball team. He was a baseball player.
Yeah, I had his baseball card for the Pirates, hometown Seneca Falls, New York.
He must have played for a year at least. Number 22.
22.
They had who's the guy who got in trouble there and transferred?
Deshaun Williams.
Yeah.
Remember Louis McCraskey? There's a lot of guys that got in trouble and transferred.
I was thinking Deshaun Williams. Wasn't he 22?
That's not a bad guess. I'm going to say it wasn't Luke Jackson. I wanted to say Luke Jackson, but it wasn't Luke Jackson. It's the answer to this is going to be somebody like Gene Waldron.
Oh, yeah. You're thinking along the right lines, but you got to go deeper than that.
I don't remember what Marty Head's number was.
Wendell Alexis.
I'll give you a clue. It's retired.
Oh, it's a retired. Is it Anwar Sadat Singh? No, which I'm pretty sure it's not. It's Dave Bing.
Dave Bing is correct.
Yeah.
And here's a funny one. Who's the leading scorer to ever wear number 35 for Syracuse?
Oh, God, I had a flash of somebody. Jeremy McNeil was 34.
Your boy Scott McCorkle wore 35, but it's not him.
Scotty McCorkle, I hadn't even thought of him for a while. He didn't make much of an impact, but he was there when I was there.
When I picture 35, I picture him. I don't know why.
Yeah, Scott McCorkle. 35.
You probably won't get it.
Andre Hawkins was 45. Was Howard Trish 35?
No, he's 25.
Ah, jeez, I thought I had you. Yeah, I'm going to have to give up on that one.
Jason Sapola was a close second on this one. He wore 35. Jim Boeheim is the leading number 35 in history.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Good one.
That's good. Yeah, I would never have guessed that.
Number 35, they call him. That's because that's how many wins he gets every season.
Pretty much.
Billy Seelick also wore 35. He didn't get it. He wasn't on the list.
Now, let me ask you this. Don't you think it's crazy that at one point in time, Billy Seelick played 25 minutes a game for Syracuse?
Yeah. Well, out of desperation, I think, as much as anything. But
Yeah, I mean, what was going on in that area, you know?
He wouldn't even see he'd be a 12th man on this team.
He wouldn't be
10th
recruited.
man.
He wouldn't be recruited. So,
I think the campus security is about to get me.
no, if they think you're plotting a scheme.
I think they might.
Well, good old Billy Seelick. Shout out to him. Billy, if you're listening, email us at upstatehoops@fingerlakes1.com. I'll send you or Scotty McCorkle a Finger Lakes 1 t-shirt. Just give me your address and shirt size. Scotty McCorkle, Billy Seelick are two random Syracuse names from the past.
Not real strong in the numbers game.
No, I got a couple of them, right? But those are tough.
I'm not good with numbers.
Those are tough. I mean, for the great ones,
They're real easy, but then some of them it's a real challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the recent one. I think you seem to forget some of the numbers over the years. Like I'm also not 100% sure what some of these guys' numbers were. Like Damone Brown, I seem to remember him as being like a number 7.
10, I would guess. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Brad Connor, number 30. What numbers you were in high school, Brad?
32.
32. All right.
Oh, you know what I was going to ask? Who's the top number 5?
At Syracuse?
In honor of co-host Matt Berkey. Who's number 5? Who's the leading number 5? That was one I was definitely going to ask, and I forgot to.
It seems to me like it was maybe Jason Hart.
Yeah. That's what I would think.
Yes, that's correct. Jason Hart.
Nice.
There we go. One other number. A little trivia for you guys. I'm going to name the player, and you give me the number. Brad, I want you to turn over your sheet of paper if you have a list right now.
Damn it, I was staring at it.
Okay, we're going to start out with Leo Routins.
34?
11, I think, right?
Nope. He was number 11.
11?
I'm going to go quick fire. If you don't get it, I'm just going to give you the answer. Andre Hawkins.
45.
51.
No, well, I think it was 40. I was going to say 45, Brad. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I got the list right here.
Yeah, check it out.
53.
53?
Wait a minute, I did all. I'm probably not. It's not fair for me to do this because I spent all afternoon staring at this list. Yeah.
Well, it can get confusing. There's a lot of names and a lot of numbers.
He was 53?
53, yeah.
Yeah, I was wrong. I thought he was 45. How about Wendell Alexis?
45.
He was 45. That's right.
Yep.
I just like pulling some of these names out of the hat. Like, names like Tony Bruin. What number was Tony Bruin?
31.
I honestly don't remember. I know you got the list. So why don't you tell us?
He was 30.
30? Yeah, that sounds right now that you mention it.
His name is Derek Brower. Derek Brower inherited 30 from Tony Red Bruin.
Here's one that I do know. Greg Monroe.
12.
I think he was 11.
Was he?
Along with Leo Rollins. For some reason, I remember the 11s.
Greg Monroe's 11. You're absolutely right.
Well, for the sake of not making this another 2-hour show, we should probably move on, Brad. Great trivia as usual. Those are the types of questions that I love that get us going down that rabbit hole of Syracuse history, and that was a lot of fun doing the numbers thing. You'll have trouble outdoing yourself next week. Moving on, there was a lot of great college hoops this week. I guess we'll kind of roll right through them and discuss as we feel fit here. On Friday night, Notre Dame moved to 12-1. I mean, I think that's a quiet 12-1. They're ranked like around 20, 21, and at 12-1. So definitely positioned well to start Big East play. UConn beat Fordham 88-73. South Florida beat Bowling Green 87-84 in Florida. Like to see
overtime.
Yeah. Would you say triple overtime?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I didn't know. I knew it was overtime. I didn't know it was triple overtime.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And here's a little disappointing one for the Big East. UNC Asheville beat St. John 72-65. Another shout out to Brendan Harrington. Used to be the radio guy for UNC Asheville, so I'm sure he was the radio guy when they had that gigantic 7'10" guy. I don't know if you remember him. George was his last name.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kenny George.
Yep.
And he tells some funny stories about Kenny George. Like sometimes they would just let Kenny George play one side of the court because Kenny George was pretty dominant, but he couldn't move. He's so big that he really couldn't get up and down the court. And then it was in the conference tournament game. Brendan told me this story about Kenny George. He was hurt and couldn't get up and down the court, and so they didn't play him all game. And then with like 2 seconds left, they had an inbound pass underneath the basket, and they checked in Kenny George. He went and stood by the basket. They threw it up to him, and he got the alley-oop. And
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and they won. So
why wouldn't you do that every play? You had a guy 7'7".
Exactly.
Well, that's what I asked. I said, why not just leave Kenny George at either the offensive or defensive end and don't let him run? Play 4-on-5 the other side. And he said that they actually
in high
did.
school in Iowa.
They did
6-on-6, and you couldn't pass half court.
Women's basketball, right, in Iowa?
Yeah.
Which seems kind of crazy. I'd like to see a game, or maybe not. Moving ahead to Saturday, Cornell lost at Boston U, so the Big Red is now 4-8. Not looking like they're going to factor too much into the Ivy Crown this year, but we'll have to wait and see. Michigan State moves to 11-2 with a win at home over Texas in a game I was lucky enough to watch on Saturday, 67-56. This is a game that really kind of boggles my mind and hurts a little bit. Providence loses to Boston College 71-68 in Chestnut Hill on Saturday. So that puts Boston College. Providence could have really hammered it home on BC. They would have been 5-6, but instead they're 6-5, and now Providence is 8-3. I thought Providence was a little better than that, and especially given what's happened with the Big East and kind of Providence being home base for the Big East, you'd think that they could take care of BC, but they didn't. Marquette won at home over LSU 84-80, so Marquette's 8-3. A lot of games on Saturday. Mercer beat Alabama 66-59 in Alabama. Wofford beat Xavier 56-55. Were you at that game, Brad?
I was at that game.
Yeah.
Xavier did a nice tribute to the Sandy Hook situation. They wore Sandy Hook jerseys and head to toe, and they auctioned them off after the game for money to go to the families.
Nice.
Yeah, that's definitely nice.
Did you buy one?
No.
How much were they going for?
I didn't even see it. It was all online.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't after the game. I would hope they'd wash them first and then put them up for auction.
Right.
We were kind of joking about it, though. I mean, you got these Xavier guys, or 6'8", 6'10" guys. What do you do with one of their jerseys?
Right. Hopefully another 6'8" guy bought it.
We could use it as a backdrop item on the Upstate Hoops podcast with all our other paraphernalia we got hanging up around here in the studio.
That wasn't bad. Yeah, I should have donated for that reason.
But anyways, Wofford beat Xavier 56-55. Xavier's having a tough go of it this year. What do you think with them? They just no chance in the A-time. We're not going to see them in the tournament this year.
Yeah, I mean they'll hang around. They've got some talent. They're not very deep, and they're pretty young. They've got a couple of freshmen that are going to be good, but they're just not there yet. Wofford, I don't know, man. Wofford wasn't that good either. Xavier was up 10 in the first half, and they just chipped away. And yeah, Xavier. It was funny. Xavier, they made a 3 to tie it with 8 seconds left. That was probably the picture that you saw. And and then as soon as they made the 3, Xavier fouled the inbound on purpose because the guy either forgot or didn't realize it was a 3 and it was tied. So he sent him off to the line, and then they won at the line.
Ouch.
The 8-10 now.
They foul, and then the freshman comes up to him. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Who do you think's the favorite in the 8-10, Brad?
I like St. Louis.
Temple after we just saw Syracuse lose.
Yeah,
I think it's Temple, VCU, and Butler, right?
Yeah, those are probably the main 3. St. Louis.
I like St. Louis.
I think
Richmond
is a pretty talented team. No, not Richmond.
But honestly, Butler.
Oh my God.
Butler's got to be the choice. I think St. Louis is up there too. I'm not really sold on Temple. I think that was just a one-game thing.
Jim's going to hate on Temple the rest of the year.
Well, I'm looking at their numbers and the results of the other games. I think it was just one of those games where, the 2 guys had career nights.
I think Temple's pretty good.
They look good against Syracuse.
For Syracuse's sake, Temple runs the table.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I know San Diego State in a game I'm going to get to here in a bit. I might as well get to it now. It was on Tuesday night, but Arizona beat San Diego State 68-67 in Hawaii for San Diego State's second loss of the year, their first being obviously to Syracuse on the aircraft carrier. I was rooting hard for San Diego State in that game just to help our RPI. Great game, though. Those teams are both good. San Diego State is really good. Tapley is a phenomenal player, and he's got a supporting cast. San Diego State is really good. UNLV is really good. They got one of the best freshmen in the country. So, that league is definitely really tough. I honestly think San Diego State and UNLV are both legitimate potential top 10 teams. I think they're that good.
Yeah, I think they're both top 8 seeds, no doubt.
Saw a 2-10 Old Dominion beat Virginia.
Yeah, that was a score I had on here. That was that was on Saturday as well. Yeah, don't look now, but Old Dominion is 2-10. And how did they get their second win? They beat Virginia 63-61. What's up, Virginia? I mean, I don't have much to say about that other than just to make a note that happened. And in my upset special from last week, Verk, I told you St. Bonaventure was going to go down and beat the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
NC State won 92-73 over St. Bonaventure. And another upset, speaking of West Coast teams, South Dakota State beat number 16 New Mexico 70-65, handing New Mexico their first loss. And that's another team that's always involved with the UNLV and San Diego State. Missouri beat Illinois. Go ahead, Bram.
One more pathetic result from the ACC is you guys mentioned Virginia Tech and how they
yes
more now who we thought they were. They lost by 36 to Colorado State.
88-52 in Las Vegas. And we were talking a few weeks ago about how Virginia Tech was better this year, and they're obviously worse than we thought.
Yeah.
Missouri beat Illinois 82-73, knocking Illinois from the ranks of the unbeaten. And then Kansas State beat Florida 67-61, handing Florida their second loss. So those are some big... Oh, and I can't forget Kansas beat Ohio State on Saturday night 74-66. And I believe that was that game in Columbus?
Yes.
I mean, that's a pretty impressive win by Kansas.
Kansas is awesome. They are freaking awesome.
Yeah, they are making a debut in my power rankings this week.
Embarrassed Richmond and going to Columbus to win. I mean, Ohio State's a good team. But Kansas has all the weapons. They're as good as there is in this country, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. George Mason, 67, Richmond 64. Brad, sorry to hear that the Spiders dropped that one.
Yeah, they're reeling after getting blown out in Kansas.
Moving ahead to Sunday, Pitt is now 12-1. Another team that should note that they're in pretty good shape heading into January. They beat Kennesaw State 59-43 And then Miami from the ACC faced Arizona in Hawaii, and it was a 69-50 Wildcat victory as the Hurricanes dropped that game. Another ACC team that I thought was going to be better this year, but got killed by Arizona on Sunday. And and then it gets better on Tuesday. They lost to Indiana State 57-55 in overtime. So now Miami's 0-3. Or 8-3. They have 8 wins, not 0. Oh boy.
They've got 0. You guys realize the Big East has as many ranked teams as the Big Ten?
Yeah.
It's happened.
As much talk as there is the Big Ten's the conference to beat and everything else. Big East has just as many top 25, just as many top 10, and just as many one loss or fewer. Actually more one loss or fewer. Big East has six teams that have one loss or less. Big Ten only has 4. Big East is toe to toe with the Big Ten still, and you're not going to hear the media say it. They're all about the Big Ten this year, but it's not bearing out in the data yet.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that right off the bat this year for the podcast, was how the Big Ten was dominant, but Ohio State losing at Duke and then losing at home to Kansas, Michigan State losing early to UConn. But then there's teams like Minnesota, one-loss Minnesota team looking pretty good in the Big Ten. Wisconsin is a team too that's kind of hurt the Big Ten, picture.
Yeah, true.
We are at the hour and a half mark here, so let's get to our power rankings for the week. I'll go first, and I should reiterate that these are power rankings. So these are teams I think are the best. Not necessarily working in the same way the polls work, where if you lose, you drop. I kind of give it the eye test. And I'm going to say it right now. I still think Syracuse is the best team in the country, and I'm going to keep them at number 1. And just make that note, and I'll give you my top 5. Kansas, number 5. Arizona, number 4. Michigan, 3. Their resume is really strong. I can't deny it. I don't really see Michigan is an elite number 1 seed type of team this year, from what I've seen them play. But I do got them at 3. They've got some great wins. Play a tough schedule so far. Duke number 2 and Syracuse number 1. I know I'm going to get killed, by putting Syracuse number 1 still after they lost, but that was a crazy Enigma game on Saturday. So much had to go wrong for Syracuse to lose that game. I'm keeping them at 1. I still believe that that they'll beat any of these other teams, except for Temple.
Want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Verk.
I am going with Syracuse at number 5. I almost dropped them out of my top 5. I just concerned about their 3-point shooting, maybe relying on Carter Williams a little bit too much. But capable. Hopefully they get it turned around here ahead in the Big East season opener. I got Louisville number 4. They're we didn't talk about it, but they're getting their big man back for Kentucky on Saturday. Dang. And, he's going to be, I just think it makes him that much more solid. Kind of forgot about Louisville a little bit. Then you got Kansas. They're just, they're playing great. And Michigan, Duke. This was the first week it was a real struggle to kind of put this together because, I'm leaving Indiana, Arizona.
Yeah.
There's 12-0 Cincinnati out there, 10-1 Missouri. It seems like, there's a lot of good teams, and you could shake up that top 9 or 10 teams anyway and, make a top 5 out of it.
Yeah, I think it'll clear up by the end of this upcoming month of January, where we'll end up seeing, a more definitive group of 5 who are really, in my mind, the contenders for the number 1 seed, which I still think Syracuse is. Now if Syracuse was to lose another one and they start getting on the outside in as far as the number 1 seed, I probably would have to start dropping them. But right now, I still got them at 1. Brad, go ahead with your top 5.
Number 5, I have Michigan. I'm not as sold yet. I'd like to see them beat an elite team. I think they beat NC State was probably their best win, but they're solid. So they're at 5. Louisville 4. I didn't have them in, but now with Deng coming back, they're a better team. And without them, they're not a top 5. With them, they are.
Yep.
Number 3, I've got Arizona. Great win against San Diego State, and they're going to be the class of the Pac-10. I don't see them losing more than 3 or 4 games all season because the Pac-10 just stinks. Number 2, I've got Duke. And number 1, I've got Kansas. I love Kansas. I don't know what Ben McLemore. Have you guys seen this guy? He's unbelievable. He's a freshman.
I haven't seen much of Kansas. I'm going to make a point to watch him next time I can.
Is he a redshirt freshman, Brad?
He is, and I can't figure out what the red shirt was all about. If he was injured or if they were getting him out for some reason.
I heard that.
I didn't, but yeah, he's a redshirt freshman.
It's just weird to have such a, usually when you're a great player like that, you don't redshirt. But I know the NBA scouts are all over him.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a smooth player. Can shoot it, can get to the rim. Good passer, just a good handle. I mean, he's got every tool. He's just a little bit raw because he didn't play last season.
Right.
So now he's shaking the dust off a little bit. I mean, he was great against Richmond. He's been great. And they're just killing teams. Kansas, they're beating teams by 20, 30 points, and beating obviously good teams like Ohio State in their own gym. So I really love that team, and the Big 12 is bad too. So they're going to have an easy time in the Big 12 too.
Yeah, a great coach, Bill Self.
Yep.
So there you have it. There's our top 5. We'll take a quick look at the week ahead. Holiday tournaments are either rescheduling or continuing now over the next couple days in Section 5 basketball. As far as college basketball goes, some big games this week. Thursday, Cincinnati hosts New Mexico on ESPN2 at 9 p.m., so you can check out the undefeated Bearcats.
One lost New Mexico, too.
Yeah, and they should have been a battle of undefeateds if New Mexico didn't get upset this week by, who was it? San Diego State, South Dakota State, yeah.
That would have been a great undefeated matchup tonight.
You going to go to that game, Brad?
I'm in Virginia, so it's not going to happen.
Oh, yeah, actually, I keep forgetting that's tonight. That's tonight.
My 8-year-old's jockeying to stay up tonight, 9 o'clock start.
Well, I think you got to let him.
No school tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you got to let him stay up, get some popcorn.
See if we can make that happen. If you can make it.
Friday, Missouri visits UCLA at 10 o'clock at ESPN2. Baylor at Gonzaga at 8 o'clock in ESPN2. Saturday, you got Santa Clara at Duke at noon on ESPN2. Kentucky at Louisville at 4 o'clock on CBS. That is going to be a good one to see, and glad to see that Dang's going to be back for it, too. UNLV at North Carolina at 2 o'clock on ESPN2. We know our producer Hunt Dog's going to be checking that one out. And, I like UNLV in that one.
Yeah.
Monday, Cincinnati at Pittsburgh at noon on ESPN2. That's a tough Big East opener against a couple of, one-loss Pitt team and a zero-loss Cincy team. Michigan State's at 12-1 Minnesota at 2 o'clock on ESPN2. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Syracuse is going to play Elkhorn State at 7 on Saturday. Central Connecticut State at 3 on Monday afternoon. And then their Big East opener Wednesday night against Rutgers at 7.
I got 2 upset specials, Jim.
Okay, give them to us.
Baylor winning at Gonzaga.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's an upset, but I got Minnesota beating Michigan State. I don't even know who. Minnesota might be favored in that game. They're both.
Do they still have Ralph Sampson Jr. on that team?
I don't think so. But they got one of their. I forget who it is. They got a good score, and they're off to a good start.
All right, we'll keep an eye on those. I do not have an upset special this week for you because last week's didn't work out, so I got to take a week off.
Oh, I got one for you guys. I think Kentucky's going to beat Louisville.
Yeah, I looked at that too.
Why?
Yeah, because it's in a rivalry game, it always feels like the underdog rises up.
Yeah, that could be true.
It's at Kentucky. I think is that Kentucky?
No, it's at Louisville.
It's at Louisville.
At Louisville?
It's at the Yum Center.
I just think it's going to take Dang a game or two to get his feet under him. Yeah, I mean, I think Kentucky's primed to poise the upset.
The talent's there, if it's all coming together, they could make a run here.
Well, we'll find out next week how you guys did with your upset picks. Next week, we'll be back at a regular time of 9 o'clock on Thursday night for our first show of 2013. So thanks again for joining us again on the Upstate Hoops podcast, and glad to have you back, Brad. Thanks for phoning in on the road.
Thanks for bringing me back. I thought Red was going to take my spot permanently.
And why don't you play us out, Hunt Dog?
Have a good New Year, Brad.
Okay, so for Brad Connor, our producer Jeremy Hunt, my partner Matt Verke, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Have a great week, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
www.fingerlakes1.com.